Hello, everyone, and welcome to Threat Hunting across email devices and identity using Microsoft 365 Defender. Today's event is hosted by Patriot Consulting, and we are joined with special guest speaker Matt Soseman from Microsoft. Matt, would you please let us know a little bit more about Microsoft 365 Defender? What is it, and is it actually a product in itself, or if you can maybe just kind of walk us through what it is? Thank you.
Yeah, this is great. This is one of my favorite products. And the reason why it's my favorite product, I think you'll see here in just a moment, but this was formerly known as Microsoft Threat Protection. So if you've heard Microsoft Threat Protection, there was a rebrand a few months ago. That is now Microsoft 365 Defender. And what this allows you to do is almost in a SIM-like fashion, it allows you to collect alerts from and telemetry from Microsoft Cloud App Security, from Defender for Endpoint, Defender for Identity, Defender for Office 365, and even some Azure Active Directory telemetry. And it will crunch on that data. So as it goes through alerts from those different sources, if it happens to find alerts that are related to each other that maybe indicate some kind of a threat is occurring, it's going to create an incident automatically and then add those alerts to the incident. So if I'm a SOC analyst or I'm just an IT admin or a security guy on a team and I need to go through and figure out is there anything active in my environment, rather than going through alert by alert, which can be very time consuming and not very helpful, I can then just go through these incidents and see a collection of all the alerts. And the cool part about this, and you'll see this when we get into the demonstration, is it will guide me through how to go about investigating that incident and help me have some breadcrumbs and where to go next. Now, what I like about this, and we're looking at kind of a kill chain slide here. So what I like about this is it allows me to span that visibility across the kill chain. And so when you have these different, I call them child products, but when you have these child products like Defender for Identity or Defender for Endpoint, working together with Microsoft 365 Defender, it can obviously provide a level of protection across each of these links here in the kill chain, but also provide a level of response and detection as well. So as a user opens up an email in Exchange Online, as an example, and there's a malicious attachment, maybe a malicious link that they click on, obviously Defender for Office 365 is going to trigger on that. And then if there's some sort of malicious activity that happens at that point where it runs remote code or allows an attacker to get into the environment, that's where things like Defender for Endpoint start to kick in and Defender for Identity. But again, it's collecting all of this data up to a centralized resource called Microsoft 365 Defender. And what that allows me to do is just have visibility across all of this without having to go into each separate product. And then there's some other things you'll see in the demo. There's what we call advanced hunting queries. And so the thing I love about security, it's all about the data. It's more of a data science thing than it is anything else. And so these products are collecting a vast amount of data and telemetry. And so with Microsoft 365 Defender, you can perform these hunting queries to be able to run what we call a KQL or Custo query language query to find that needle in the haystack. So if you want to know who clicked on that link and on what machine and what website did it go to and find specific details, you can run a query for that. That's really the brilliance around all of this. And then lastly, with Microsoft 365 Defender, it has a level of automation built in known as playbooks. And so Microsoft's Security Operations Center up in Redmond, along with our engineering teams, are constantly adding to these playbooks in the product to make it smarter and smarter. So as it discovers an alert and creates an incident, the system will actually try to automatically respond to it. Now, of course, it can't respond to everything. That's impossible. But many of kind of the basic threats you would think of, it's going to attempt to respond to it and try to mitigate. So for example, if you have an email with a malicious attachment in it, the system's going to try to respond to that and remove the attachment or remove the email from the user's mailbox. If it recognizes that maybe somebody's identity might be at risk, it's going to try to disable that user's account. So lots to unpack here. But when you look at this slide, this is a kill chain. And the thing to remember with this product is that it stretches across the kill chain. The last thing I'll mention before I hand over to Joe is he said, well, Matt, is it a product? It's not really a product. I kind of call it a product. It's not really a product you can go out and buy off the shelf. It's available when you own Defender for Endpoint, Defender for Office 365, Defender for Identity, basically that Microsoft 365 E5 license. When you own that, it lights up this Microsoft 365 Defender capability. And there's a lot more to it here. I'm not doing it justice, but you'll see more when we get into the demonstration. But this is quickly becoming a huge investment for Microsoft, and you're going to see a lot more innovation around this centralized dashboard for all the security products here.
When should a client consider 365 Defender, and when should they consider Sentinel?
That's a great question. So I'll give you the nutshell in kind of three answers. One, when you want to bring in third-party data. So if you've got firewalls and you've got storage area networks and all sorts of other network devices, third-party devices, maybe you're using AWS and GCP and you want to bring that data in, that's when you're going to want to start looking at Sentinel. The second answer to that is Sentinel is only as smart as the data you feed into it. And so if you're feeding in Microsoft 365 Defender data, which, as you know from what I just described, feeds in Defender for Office, Defender for Endpoint, Defender for Identity, MCAS. As it feeds that data, it makes Sentinel smarter. And then combine that with the third-party data, you start to get some interesting analytics. And then the third kind of answer to that is, remember I mentioned playbooks. Microsoft 365 Defender has its own playbooks that are maintained by Microsoft. But if you want to create your own, and you want to have the ability to say, well, in this type of an alert that gets triggered, I want it to go out and run all of these downstream actions. That's where you can use Sentinel to create that notebook, or sorry, that playbook. And there's a lot more to that, but that's kind of my top three.